Alright everyone, there are several reactions that have to be made today with regards to the Trump-Putin summit. People are like, oh, well, Trump is his pawn, and he looked weak and stuff. And it's like, I'll weigh in on that separately, especially from the angle of, like, John McCain and Clinton's comments, because those were funny. John Brennan, legendary traitor that he is to the country, it's like, it's totally ridiculous. But we got to talk first about the general concept of propaganda from a little bit of a different angle, which is that the establishment really what it wants to do, and I do mean the establishment. Yeah, not to sound like a hippie here, but, kind of hippie-ish. It has nothing to do with, those liberals or, neocons or something. No, it's a bunch of different groups of people loosely amalgamated. They want to shrink your head and turn you into a fucking grinning vegetable. And the reason why they want to do this is that they want to be able to control you, to get you to buy their cheap shit in many cases. Propaganda has been deployed throughout U.S. history and world history to get people, for instance, to think things that are unhealthy or healthy. And then you simply call them a conspiracy theorist if they disagree. Like years ago, I can remember when they had a pogrom against eggs. Now, there must have been some lobbying effort behind this. It must have been like, oh, well, all our alternative breakfast stuff is more healthy than eggs and steak, and it turns out that's technically not true. And this happens as like the Sausage Link Foundation, like eat more pork or something. And this has happened. And people accepted it. And if you had come out and said at the time, well, no, I don't think that eggs are unhealthy, you would have been considered like at least a Luddite. Maybe not a tinfoil hat wearing malevolent individual, but they would have said something to the effect of, well, there's Grandpa Joe over there. He's lost, he's behind the times. He still thinks that bacon and eggs is good for you. And it turns out Uncle Joe's probably right. But, people at the time would have considered him odd for making the claim. Back when I was a kid, it was a general consensus that coffee wasn't good for you, that it caused heart attacks and strokes. Now we're finding that that was because they weren't fixing the tests for whether people were smoking or not, and the actual result, if you fix for that, is, hey, coffee's actually great for you. You should, in fact, drink potentially dangerously high amounts of it because then you get even better health benefits. We're finding out that people have massively reduced heart attack and stroke rates, among other health benefits, if they drink a monstrous amount of coffee. I'm going to fucking live forever, so I feel pretty good about myself. Energy drinks less so, of course. It's presumably the little bit of oils and some of the the mineral compounds and stuff in it more than it is the caffeine. A little bit of caffeine, it's definitely good for you. You have more caffeine, you're more productive, then you make more money. Hopefully you can eat better. Maybe sleep a little bit more when you do have time to sleep, if not better. I suffer from that. I'm an insomniac. But the establishment does this over and over again. Now, partially it's malevolence and partially it's stupidity. The malevolent side is someone in the corporate media can sell you something that's simply not true. Something that you don't need. It's like, buy this new fad, everyone's doing it, a fidget spinner. What's the fucking point of a fidget spinner? Do you still use a fidget spinner? Statistically, a hell of a lot of you bought them during the craze, and now they're like in the bargain bin and stuff. It's like, people were paying $50-$60 for really special fidget spinner model, and now it's like, it's ball bearings on a piece of plastic, dude. That's fucking all it ever was, is people made a monstrous amount of money, undeservedly, selling a fad to people, and then the corporate media helped by talking about it constantly, even though it wasn't interesting. It is a piece of plastic with 3 pieces of metal in it. How interesting can it be? No, it was still a Furby. I can remember Tickle Me Elmo. Tickle Me Elmo started saying weird shit sometimes, like someone could hack into it if they knew what they were doing, and so people sort of stopped buying them. Furby used to go demonic occasionally, like some of them were screwed up. Some of them, they would take the batteries out and they would still be talking. It's not a joke. Something about their design must have allowed them to absorb static electricity from time to time or something. Something had to have happened, dude, because I saw it myself. It was fucking creepy. You think of Pogs. Most of you probably don't remember Pogs. You remember like Pokemon cards or something. That's the fad that won't die. People still like Pokemon. Less maybe. Pokemon Go seems to have gone the way of the dinosaurs. I remember Pokemon Go to the Polls was sort of the heyday of modern Pokemon craze. I liked Pokemon cards. But the establishment can be malevolent. It can be doing something, actually advertising something to you that's worthless or untrue. But there's also the ineptitude. That is, like your local, radio station, the DJ, there's probably not part of some grand conspiracy to bring authoritarianism and globalism to the United States. But he might think that the arguments being made by those people or by his parent company that are along the same lines, he might just tacitly accept them and then, basically browbeat anyone who disagrees. And that's because we got a lot of people in the United States and in the world at large that don't know very much. Unfortunately, the world is primarily populated by people who are dumb. Throughout history, we've seen this time and time again. Bad ideas get widely accepted. Good ideas are basically shunned because they tend not to be so simplistic or so easy. It's like we look at the gun control debate. The gun control debate boils down to a hyper-simplified argument by the anti-Second Amendment crowd that, hey, less guns means less gun crime. It's just common sense. Now, it's not true. It's not statistically true within the sense of the United States. It won't actually work. The true way to solve the issue is multifaceted. It's more mental health money and certainly a better mental health system overall, a better educational system, tamping down on certain teachers' unions that shield shitty teachers that abuse kids or allow bullying or get terrible test scores so kids go off and have to sell drugs to make ends meet when they graduate with flying colors at a place that doesn't mean anything, and things of that nature, and more security in schools, and also an end to the drug war. But that's difficult. That requires many things to be done and a lot of legislation. It's so much easier to just pass a bill saying you're going to ban bump stocks, even though not a single shooting will be taken care of by that. See, they want also to present a false dichotomy whenever possible, because that makes it easier too. It's like you look online, and there's a false dichotomy with regards to web censorship where people on the left and the right both feel that only people on the right are being abused by tech censorship. Number one, it's not true, and number two, it's going to get less true over time because it's an effort to simply institute censorship with family-friendly newspeak-style terms. The easiest way to do that is to fixate on whichever political group is the insurgency at the time, put the censorship apparatus in, only go after them at first. Once it's entrenched and accepted, then you slowly begin to go after everybody. That means anti-establishmentarians on the left as well. But by that time, all of the other anti-establishmentarians have been kicked off big tech sites, or they've been muzzled, they've been suppressed in some way, so it's no longer a problem. And Normie America, of course, they don't give a fuck about it. You have situations of claims without evidence, and those are rife. You look at like the Mueller probe or something. You have lots of claims, but you have very little evidence that's actually given to the public, and there are people. This is the most frustrating part. There are people who believe claims without evidence when they're coming from the government. They didn't learn from Iraq. They didn't learn from the Patriot Act. They didn't learn from the Osama raid. They didn't learn from the Gulf of Tonkin. They haven't learned from a million instances of the government saying and doing stupid things or saying things that are not true and presenting them as factual and browbeating anyone who resists as a conspiracy theorist or an extremist. They've been doing this for decades. It's no different now with this Russia bullcrap than it has been in the past. It's the same claim. Well, the Russians colluded in the election. Oh, really? What's the proof? We're not giving you proof. It's classified. By the way, you're an extremist. You must be a Russophile or a Nazi or something. Well, that's bullshit, and they've been making that claim. Remember when they instituted the Patriot Act and some people cried foul, and they're like, shut up, you unpatriotic pinko? Yeah, they loved doing that at the time. You hate Jesus, you hate America, and you want to see kids killed and not be kept safe because you stand against this act. Now, that's a false premise. It's a total straw man. What you're actually saying is you don't believe the Patriot Act will keep people safe, and it didn't. It certainly did. It made us all a lot less safe. Takes primary action away from the people, takes their ability to defend themselves away, takes away the ability of people to protest effectively. Basically gives an easy victory to America's enemies by transforming us into a tin horn state and giving us a police state where liberty once stood. But at the time, it sounded good to people. It sounded logical and rational, in fact, because they were being stupid. Oh, yeah, it's the Patriot Act. It's patriotic. America, number one. We got to stand behind the flag here. It's like you're becoming statists. You're doing exactly the opposite of what the founders would have intended you to do. They would have told George W. to stuff it up his ass for all the paper was worth. But at the time it flew. Or the Iraq War. Oh, Saddam has WMDs. Well, no, he didn't. No, the Iraq War was on false pretenses. Bush was a traitor. He sold this country out. He should have been thrown into a fucking gulag for it. But people accepted it at the time. They said, well, Saddam seems like a nasty fellow. I'm sure the intel agencies that are moderately confident that he has WMDs, I'm sure that they're totally right. And of course, it turns out that was fucking bullshit. All the WMDs, for the most part, had been used in the Gulf War, and they claimed that that didn't have an effect upon the soldiers at the time. Another lie. Gulf War syndrome doesn't exist, they said. Yeah, that dude who's got the shakes and, you know, his mind is all scrambled and he lost 30 IQ points because nerve gas was deployed during Desert Storm. No. It had nothing to do with the nerve gas. It's just he's got the shakes, dude. We're not paying a penny. That's what it was about. It's about not wanting to cough up money that you should have to veterans and veterans charities. So the establishment is filled with crap. They lie constantly, and then they'll come after somebody like me who actually at least tries to give a proper opinion, as though we're out there and there's something wrong with the world because we exist. We need to be suppressed, damn it, because we're telling too much truth, and the truth is inconvenient, in other words. That's about all. Peace out.